Unless there's been further complications, this video should release on Valentine's Day. So, in honor of that, let's talk about the Greek god of love. Eros was the son of Aphrodite and Ares and was worshipped as a god of love and sex, as well as considered one of the patrons of homosexuality. Not very surprising considering this is ancient Greece. Meanwhile, in some versions, most notably Hesiod's Theogony, he is considered the primordial god of love, created out of chaos alongside Gaia, Nyx, and Tartarus. However, for the sake of today's myth, he's Aphrodite's son. So, Psyche was like this super hot princess, and yet she was also super lonely. Why? Well, she was so beautiful that no one thought they had a chance, and therefore no one approached her. This, however, didn't stop people from worshipping her as Aphrodite. I think you guys can see where this is going. When Aphrodite saw that some random princess was being worshipped instead of her, she got insanely mad and insanely jealous and decided to punish Psyche. Psyche, not her worshippers, by emotionally tormenting her. How? Well, she sent her son Euros to make her fall in love with something or someone that will ruin her life. Now, I'm not endorsing any of this behavior, but wouldn't it be easier to just kill her in front of an audience in order to assert your dominance as a goddess? Or if you want to stick to the whole love theme, just introduce her to Zeus? I mean, if you want to ruin a girl's life in ancient Greece, heading them up with the good old god of one night stands and never paying child support will 100% do the job, guaranteed, or your money back. I mean, maybe her kid won't have as bad of a life, which is pretty rare, but she definitely will have a sucky ass life after that. Anyways, I'm getting off track here. Yura shows up to Psyche's house when she's asleep, prepared to make her fall in love with an alpha male podcast host or something. But when he saw her, he was so stunned by her beauty that he accidentally stabs himself with his own arrow, falling immediately in love. Jeez, you'd think that a god would be immune to their own deific domain. Having miserably failed at his job, Euros runs away to come up with a plan. So, Psyche's father receives a prophecy from Apollo that she is doomed to marry a monster even the highest of Olympian sphere. So, they decide to leave her on the edge of a cliff like the prophecy child she is. After basically being sacrificed to some supposedly super dangerous, super powerful deity, Psyche waited on the cliff's edge until the west wind, Zephyrus, showed up and whisked her away to a palace where her husband supposedly awaits. And I say supposedly because there's no one there. At least, not visibly. All of the residents, though showing signs that they existed, were not visible, including, get this, her future husband. Well, not really. He is visible, except he only shows up at night, and she isn't allowed to light lamps to see him.
Fast forward to the night. Psyche sleeps with her new husband and realizes he doesn't seem like a monster. His voice is soft and gentle, his skin has no scales nor fur, and he has two hands, not claws. The only abnormality seems to be what feels like wings on his back. Eventually, she goes back home because she's also allowed to do that. Seeing that she was alive, her sisters, yes, she has sisters, questioned her about her new monster husband. When told about the whole invisible household thing, they probably first wondered if she had caught a cold and hallucinated the whole thing. But then they remembered that this was ancient Greece and instead encouraged her to try and catch a glimpse of this so called monster.
Come nightfall, Psyche waits until her husband falls asleep and lights a small olive oil lamp to try to see the guy, assuming he wasn't also invisible. The princess slowly walked towards the bed, which by now she knew the placement of by memory, and held the lamp over her husband's sleeping form. Rather than a demon or a beast, Psyche found herself gazing upon the god of love, Euros himself. Due to the shock of this discovery, Psyche's hand falters just a little, letting a drop of hot oil drip onto the god's naked back, waking him up. Wounded and betrayed, Euros immediately flees through the window. Wait, hold on, there's a window? Then why the hell couldn't she see him using moonlight? I mean, yeah, moonlight through a window isn't exactly the most ideal light source for identifying what someone looks like, but she definitely could have seen enough to deduce that he was somewhat humanoid. And paired with the wings, calm manner, mansion, invisible servants, and either having favor from or command over the west wind, there's only so many figures that match the bill. Like, come on! And Ovid didn't exactly mention anything like they only slept together on new moons or something.
Not long after Eros leaves and Psyche, realizing she fumbled a major bag, it also became apparent that the princess was pregnant. Not about to let this Greek god do what Greek gods do, Psyche set out to find her baby's daddy. But first, she told her sisters about who her husband really was and exactly how she got to him. Her sisters decided that Psyche's chance with Eros was as good as their own, so they went to the cliff, called upon Zephyrus, and then promptly fell to their deaths. Psyche wandered the land until she came upon a rundown temple and checked it out to see if Eros was in there. Finding that it was empty, she decided to clean the temple as it was so shambled she couldn't even tell which god it belonged to. This was the best choice that she's made so far, as the temple actually belonged to Demeter, who both out of thanks and pity gave her directions to Aphrodite.
Meanwhile, Euros was bedridden due to the oil burn.
When Psyche arrived at Aphrodite's palace, she was able to talk things out and reconcile with the goddess. You didn't fall for that, did you? Idiots. Aphrodite decided to put her through an unspecific number of trials, starting with having her separate grains of wheat, barley, millet, vetches, beans, and lentils into their own piles by evening. This, unsurprisingly, stunned Psyche stupid and hopeless. What could she do now?
This is when Euros stirred from bed and used his love powers to compel the ants to help Psyche out with the grains. Cool, done. She can get her hubby back and go home now, right? Well, not exactly. Aphrodite knew damn well that the task she gave was impossible, so when she saw that it was done, she immediately deduced that Psyche basically did nothing while the ants, commanded by Euros, did all the sorting. Using it as an excuse to torture the poor girl further, she readied another task.
Aphrodite told her to gather a golden fleece from the wild flock down by the riverside, but there was a catch. These sheep were aggressive every moment they were awake. Gasp. Aphrodite was sabotaging Psyche. Who could have seen that coming? Luckily, the local river god warned her and told her to instead wait for nighttime when the flock went to sleep and gather wool from the bushes and branches.
Meanwhile, Euros was bedridden due to the oil burn. And Aphrodite once again turned Psyche away with another mission to go to hell, kill herself, go to the underworld and ask Persephone to lend her, Aphrodite, some beauty before the dinner party with the other gods, as she lost some taking care of her son. I I don't really know how that works.
At this point, Psyche got the memo and climbed to the top of the highest tower in the palace and prepared to jump off. Yet, before she got the chance, a voice coming from within the tower discouraged her from doing so and instead gave her advice on how to safely get in and out of the underworld without failing a bucket clutch. The voice warned her not to open the box containing the beauty when she received it. Psyche smoothly and successfully got into the underworld, received the beauty from Persephone, and got out. Yet still, this wouldn't be Greek mythology if we didn't have the protagonist making the dumbest decisions conceivable. So, Psyche decided to open the box of beauty and take some for herself. Turns out, Persephone was not much of an Aphrodite fan either, because the box was not full of beauty, but sleep. And you know what happens when a mortal takes a drug meant for a god? 9 times out of 10, nothing good. And while the sleep was supposed to knock an immortal Aphrodite out for maybe the duration of a dinner party, it basically kills the mortal Psyche.
Meanwhile, Euros is. Oh wait! Euros got up! Everyone applaud! The god so powerful he can control Zeus finally recovered from his oil burn. The god of love flies down to the near still figure that is his wife, and upon seeing her dire condition, pierces to Olympus with lightning speed, demanding for Zeus to immortalize Psyche and ordering Hermes to bring her to Olympus. Feeding her nectar and ambrosia, Eros successfully revives and ascends his wife to godhood. Sooner after, Psyche gave birth to pleasure, and they lived happily ever after. Holy shit, this is gonna be a pain to draw!
Happy Valentine's Day, and don't forget to like and subscribe, idiots.